My name is Courtney Colson, a female to male to female detransitioner, and on this channel we try to figure out what the hell is wrong with me. Or at least what the hell was wrong with me. I'm fine now, I'm doing well. But I want to go back to one of my older videos. It's 4 years ago now that I made this video. I thought it was a much longer time frame, but okay. Curing autism led me to detransition, which is a very clickbaity title, and it worked. I got 13,000 views and lots of comments, and people were quite divided on it. And so, in the years since I made that video, a lot more information has come to light, and I'm at the stage now where I realize, no, I don't think I ever had autism. I think that was a misdiagnosis, and we are putting way too much, or a lot of people are putting way too much faith into the opinions of medical and psychological professionals as if they are gods, that they are infallible. And that's just like their opinion, man, you know? Me being diagnosed with autism by one guy, or me being diagnosed with, well, not even gender dysphoria, I was just allowed to transition. No one diagnosed me with anything. Yes, so I went to the same family GP my entire childhood. This doctor, we'll mention it, he's known me since I was a fetus. He knew me very well, and he never picked up on any autism symptoms. There's nothing in my early records that would suggest any sort of developmental delay. I spoke and wrote and read and walked all at normal periods of my life. But I was told by others, especially the autism community, oh, maybe it was just overlooked, or, no, not everyone has that. No, yes. You have to have those early childhood developmental delays. I was perfectly normal, and then I hit puberty, and everything fell apart. I had the gut issues, I had hormone issues, I lost my mind. I think I've basically been insane for the majority of my life. From about the age of 11 to 32, I was dealing with one issue after another. I've been psychotic, I've had all sorts of things going wrong with me, but autism wasn't one of them. Now, referencing that first video, there was something wrong. Mentally, maybe neurologically, but mentally there was something wrong with me. And when I went carnivore, I still stand by that, when I went carnivore, that neuroses just disappeared. And I was still on testosterone at the time. That's the other thing to bear in mind, is that I was Connor. I was still living as Connor when Sean Baker, notable carnivore advocate, one of his people interviewed me for his channel, his network he's got going on, this website, Meet RX, I think is what it's called. And yeah, I was just so positive about this and how amazing it was, like being reborn. It really was. Still stand by that. That's true. I had this autism-like experience, and then when I went carnivore, it went away. So, gut microbiome, mental issue, whatever it was, it has cured. So I won't take that back. That worked. It worked. Whatever it did, it worked. But I don't think we can call that autism, because it doesn't fit the diagnostic criteria, and that's why we're going to take this test right now. We'll get right into it without too much more preamble. So this test is on the idrlabs.com website, Individual Differences Research. So there are 50 questions, and I will answer this the same way I did for the alexithymia test video I did, which I'll link below. So there's 50 questions, and I will answer them as I am now and as I was then. So I have been described as having an unusual posture. So I would say now disagree, although when I was autistic, yeah, I wouldn't even move my arms when I walked. It was a very robotic way of walking. And then I had a psychotic episode where I believed that I was a robot, so that did not improve the situation at all. Question 2. I hate the sound of fireworks, fire alarms, or thunder. Disagree. And when I was autistic, those specific sounds weren't an issue to me, but I was quite sensitive to sounds. Although I've gone out to parties or events with friends, and they'll bring along an autistic friend. The autistic friend has these massive, either like the proper safety gear, ear protection, or they'll have just massive headphones, and just go, they make earplugs, right? Like, why do you gotta attract attention to yourself? It's very off-putting if you see someone like that and you go, oh, okay, there's something wrong with them, I wanna stay away. But if someone's just got earplugs, back then I couldn't tune out other people's conversations, it was so overwhelming. So I'm not making it up, there was something going on there. There was an audio processing autism-like experience. So, disagree that I don't like the fireworks. Next. I'm trying to get through this as fast as possible, but you know me, I talk a lot. And also I need to give you more context. I have a tendency to hit or destroy things when I'm angry or stressed. No. Not much to add there. 4. I feel irritated or angry when I have to navigate uncertain situations. No. Question 5. I prefer to do things on my own rather than with others. 50-50. Depends who the others are, because if I'm carrying all the weight of this project here, then I'm basically working on my own anyway. But if I have a good group of people and they actually help, then yeah, it depends on who they are. So I'll put it in the middle there. Question 6. I am almost always in the same neutral, flat mood. I mean, you know me, man. I am just fucking monotone, no expression. Expressions like raining cats and dogs or feeling like $1 million are confusing to me. No. But also, autistic people don't necessarily, I know some autistic people, and they know metaphors and stuff, they can figure it out, and yet people who are not diagnosed, I will make references like that, and they'll look at me like, well, what do you mean by that? Okay, I'm a writer, and I'm trying to get into poetry and writing lyrics. It's not going well, but I'm trying. So I don't want things to be literal. I like when things are a little abstract, a little more creative. Question 8. I have certain routines or habits that I feel I must follow. I mean, in terms of my productivity, I would like to achieve certain things every day, exercise, working on the podcast, or my novel, or whatever, studying. Yeah, I have a routine, but do I have to? No, don't care. Every day is an adventure, anything can happen. Russian roulette. Question 9. I follow a set schedule, closely and tend to avoid unfamiliar things. Disagree, love an adventure, love new, different, unfamiliar things. I usually feel unhappy more days than not. Well, I mean, there's definitely been periods of my life where I was absolutely fucking miserable, but no, now I feel great. I feel I'm pretty happy and content all the time. Others have told me that I have repetitive bodily movements. No, disagree. And I stimmed a little bit when I was autistic, and even worse when I was on testosterone. Coincidence? 12. I do not like going to loud places. Disagree, as we've already said. Love a concert, but I didn't back then. I missed out on so much fun going to live music and meeting people and going to nightclubs, and I'm doing that now. I'm finally in my 30s. I'm living. I'm doing things, going on adventures. 13. Being away from home for extended periods of time frightens me. Disagree. Can't wait to travel the world and see everything. But, as I said, I only left the country for the first time in February of last year. I had no interest in travel. I didn't see the point. I just thought, well, every place is just like here. It's all modern, developed, westernized. It's all the same. But no. But I realized that my impression of travel was shaped by my parents, who they took us to China and Hong Kong for a couple of weeks, and we just stuck to the real touristy location. They're very westernized. They were racist. I don't know why or how they managed to get us to China, but they didn't want to engage in Chinese culture at all. Well, I'm not going to tell you what racial slurs they use, but I got an education, I'll tell you what. And it wasn't in Mandarin. So, love traveling. 14. As a child, I put most of the pressure on the front of my feet when walking. No, I never did the toe walking. Question 15. Others say that I speak too loudly or too softly. When I lost my hearing in that ear from the accident, there were definitely times where it's resonating more in my head, so I think I'm louder than I am, or sometimes I will be shouting when I don't need to. It was very hard for me. My brain's rewired now, so I don't even notice that I am deaf until maybe I'm trying to listen to something and I'm lying down. So on my good ears, I can't hear it down. I'm thinking on my bad ear, yeah, that's it. But no, I don't have any issues with volume. 16. People have told me that I make repetitive, strange noises and repeat certain words out of context. No, I never did that. I know some people have the vocal stims and please stop. Well, especially because, this TikTok psychology situation we got going on now, where people diagnose themselves and they act like they have autism or Tourette's. It's just, wow, you really want attention, huh? So, question 17. I almost always carry some special object in my purse or wallet that provides me a sense of security, comfort, and control. Yeah, it's called a switchblade. No, I don't carry any weapons anymore. A mate of mine gave me one of these little metal martial art thing you put in your... It's like a little sharp... It's not a blade, but you can use it. I don't know what happened to that. But, no. I only carry things that have some sort of practical use. Never had that. I don't think... No, I wasn't one of those... I was never one of those kids, I can't leave the house without my blankie or my toy or whatever. No. I dislike talking to people I don't know. I disagree. I walk up to strangers all the time. I go, I love your outfit. Or they're talking about, I heard, like at a car show over here, you guys are talking about subs. Are you seeing any more subs around here? And what do you think of sub? And da-da-da. No, I love approaching strangers. I'm very much an extrovert. Although I used to be very introverted when I was a teenager. I became very paranoid, and we'll get to that in the documentation and medical records later. But focusing, I'm trying to get through this. 19. Even when I was paying attention to conversations, I do not necessarily look into the eyes of the speaker. Disagree. Always make eye contact, but didn't make eye contact at all when I was autistic. And it really was a matter of I cannot focus on what you're saying or what I want to say, and it's like, how much eye contact do I have? And then when I cured this condition, I was staring too much. I was just looking people dead in the eye going, oh my god, I can just do this. I don't feel like blinking. I could just do this all day. I don't feel... I accumulate lots of facts on subjects and topics that interest me. I don't know. Well, I mean, I do this channel, and then I've got my Metal Girl Solid podcast, so I'm interested in transgender medicine, or I'm interested in Metal Gear Solid. So I'm doing all that research and putting it into... I'm a creator, not a consumer, so I'm not just memorizing information, I'm turning it into entertainment and education for other people. Same thing with my Dr. Travian novel that I'm working on. So, I'll kind of give it a kind of agree. Because it's... I am curious, I love to learn, then I'll do something with that. It's not for its own sake. Question 21. I generally avoid eye contact with others. Disagree. So they do ask you a few of the same questions. Question 22. People have told me that I can be obsessed about my interests. Not any... I'll say kind of, because I am very passionate about... but I'm not so single-minded as I was. There were times when I was so autistic, psychotic, whatever you want to call it, that I would just talk about, say, Alien, the Alien movies, Prometheus. So much, in the back of my mind, I want to stop. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't like this. I wish I could say something else, but I don't know what to say. And it was a nightmare. So I used to be very obsessive, where I just hyperfixate on one topic and then I wouldn't move on for a while. But then I would have very dramatic interest. So I don't have any interest in Alien at all anymore, and I kind of don't want to return to it because I have so many negative memories about myself back then. But I would go through these intense phases, which I've always done since childhood. Of I would be really into Pokemon, and then that would move on, and oh no, now it's then it was Lord of the Rings, and oh, now I moved on, and oh, now it's Underworld, and then yeah. So I would go through those very intense phases, and then I would just burn myself out on that subject. There was just nothing more to do, and then I would move on. Which is sort of like what I do with a video game. I try to complete it 100%, and then move on, never come back. Whereas now, I've got a better balance in my life. If I have a broad range of interests, I can start a conversation with anyone about anything, whether it be fitness or vintage cars, military antiques and history, psychology, fashion, movies. I'm quite well rounded, and so I have a very easy time making friends with people because, well, gee, no matter who I talk to out there in the world, we'll probably have something in common, at least one thing. So I'll say I kind of disagree. I'm pretty obsessive about the things I love, but not overtly, not really obsessed. 23. People sometimes tell me that I'm being rude in conversations even when I think I'm being polite. Kind of agree, but I think that's universal, where if someone doesn't want to give you the benefit of the doubt, if someone wants to read you as rude or inappropriate, they will. They absolutely will. It's kind of... I don't necessarily say that would be an autism thing. That's a hard one to see. You would need specifics. So the questionnaire doesn't cover that. But if I was talking to a therapist, they would go into specifics. And we'll talk about how I got diagnosed. Later we'll go through my medical records. People sometimes think that I'm being rude. Sometimes I'll agree. 24. I have a tendency to yell at people when I feel frustrated or stressed. Never. I came from a very shouty household. My family would just scream, especially my mother was just a horrible bitch who... She should have started a metal band. You know, I'm learning to scream to start my Linkin Park tribute band, which actually this top I bought because it looks a little bit like this one that Chester wears. It's a little bit more low cut, but close enough. And then I got the lip ring as well. So, but my mom should start a metal band because she can just go. It doesn't hurt her. She can just scream. She doesn't really get red in the face. The veins will pop out, but yeah, Jesus, whatever she's doing, she's good at it. So no. Me raising my voice is the absolute last thing I would ever do. I try to have a very rational, calm conversation. But when my voice, like, I might be in a passionate discussion with someone, and so we're like, well, hang on, what do you mean? Like, well, slow down. I never said that. Yeah, I'll have that tone of voice, which pisses some people on. So I'm not allowed to be just sort of upset and have this tone of voice. Like, how do you remain totally neutral when someone's saying bullshit at you? I'm sorry. So, disagree with yelling. 25. I've never been good at sports. No, I used to be very athletic. I used to do soccer. I was in the soccer team in primary school, but I could only play the first half and never the second half because they would bring out the oranges, and I didn't realize I was allergic. I didn't have like an anaphylactic reaction, but I would start feeling really nauseous and woozy and kind of itchy in my mouth, and I didn't know how I was allergic. I don't know if I still am, but so I did. I reached my full height, 5'3", at a very young age. So I was hovering around 5 foot tall. And so everyone thought I was going to be an athlete, and I have a big chip on my shoulder about that I thought I was going to be this barbarian type, but no, I'm quite petite. I mean, I'm trying to get myself as horizontally big as possible, but vertically I'm not very tall. And I loved sports. I always came first in running, swimming, so disagree. I like training bodybuilding now. and you know, I like hiking and doing those sorts of, but no sports specifically. It is stressful for me. Also, what about video games? That can be competitive now. So a lot of autistic people love video games. Does that count? Question 26 is: it is stressful for me to have to retain eye contact with others. So you're asking the same question next. When watching movies, I do not usually look at the eyes of the actors. Disagree, and also disagree when watching movies. I've never heard autistic people not being able to look at characters' eyes. I've never heard that. I find it difficult to make decisions or act without guidance from others. Disagree, but when I was autistic, yeah, no, I've just basically lived for other people. It took me a long time to just learn to live for myself, because when I ran away from home or when I was living by myself, I just go, well, why do I do anything? I had no ambitions, no dreams, no desires. I just sat in my, I was chronically ill as well from testosterone, but I had no ambitions of career or travel or relationships or nothing. I didn't think about my future at all. So again, an autism-like experience where without having anyone, I needed an adult. Without an adult to tell me what I should be doing, I was just totally lost. I didn't know who I was as an individual. And I also didn't value that. That's why I had this robot delusion of, well, I want to belong to someone and serve that person. I can't be a leader. Now I'm very much a leader. I think I would be very good, organizing or running a group of people. I'm extroverted. I'm good at all that sort of stuff. Very, very good socially. But back then, no, I just had no identity, no sense of myself. And this is the thing. I don't know if my family watches my videos had anything to do with me, but they still thought I was autistic. They refused to see the truth and refused to see that I had changed over the course of my life. They still saw me as this weird neurotic teenager. I'm 34 years old, but they still see me as that kid. Which I think a lot of families, they experience that. Was my parents will always see me as that kid, even though I've been a dozen people since then. 29. Others have told me that I speak like a robot. Disagree now, but yeah, again, I'm having a robot delusion. I was talking like a robot. I have trouble understanding what people mean when they say they feel happy for someone else. Disagree, and I don't. Well, I had emotional analgesia, so I couldn't understand emotional pain, but if you feel happy for someone else, well, I wasn't truly able to connect with other people. I wasn't able to genuinely feel happy for other people and feel pride and feel that invested in another person. But now, I've teared up a little bit. Like, oh, I'm so proud of you. I didn't think you could do that. Oh, wow. Yeah. So 31. New social situations make me anxious. And that is definitely a big disagree. And back then, obviously it did. 32. I get temper tantrums where others cannot reach me. So people, like a meltdown. I will disagree now, but no, I used to have meltdowns. Violent meltdowns. 33. I get obsessed with strings of numbers such as dates or license plates. No, I'm bad with numbers. 34. I often rock or fiddle with my hands to feel better. Disagree. Although I've woken myself up sometimes, so I am kind of rocking in my sleep. So I don't know what that's about. It could be a PTSD thing. I can't find it. Well, when I googled it, obviously autism was the only result. So I'm not a fiddler. I don't have stims anymore, but I used to. As a child, I would often repeat words or phrases that were said to me. No. I cannot stand certain noises, such as those made by vacuum cleaners, drums, or busy traffic. Well, my father was a drummer, so you best hope I was okay with the sound of drums. Which he never taught me. And I don't know, lately I've been wishing he had. I don't know. Maybe it's because I was watching Death Clock and I like pickles, so I don't know. 37. I am rarely worried about anything. I actually agree. I don't worry much. I do sometimes just get anxious or fixate on an argument or something that happened. I'm worried. I used to be anxiously attached. I used to have a lot of fear of abandonment. So it does bring up that fear of, oh god, I'm in trouble now, even though I didn't do anything wrong, and everyone's gonna hate me, and everyone's gonna leave me. So that's a deep wound there that will always be there. But I don't really listen to those thoughts anymore. I'll have those thoughts. I'm going, okay, whatever. Whatever happens, happens. If they leave me, they weren't worth keeping around in the first place, is what I consciously think. But, there's still that neuroses there. I don't agree with it. I used to worry a lot. I used to be very anxious and depressed, which went sort of diagnosed, but my mum pretended it wasn't. So, we'll get to that. We're nearly done. 38. I talk to my friends at a party the same way I would talk to my co-workers. Well, I mean, for me, it's the other way around. I talk to my co-workers as I would talk to my friends at a party. Well, maybe not at a party, but I do talk to, well, for me, I'm just, very extroverted, very friendly, so I do get a little casual, maybe it's a little inappropriate. Although in Australia, we're not so rigid. So when I went to Japan, I realized there was very much this structure, even in the language of, well, this is how you talk to your family, this is how you talk to a friend, or a lover, or your boss, or a coworker. There's all these different levels of interaction in Japan, but in Australia, it's pretty casual, it's pretty friendly. So I haven't really got into trouble. Well, I got into trouble talking too much, but it wasn't that I was crossing a professional boundary. So, I talk to my friends at parties saying, well, yes, sort of agree. And I don't see that as a difference between now and then when I was autistic. 39. When I am having a conversation with someone, I prefer to look at the wall, at their shoes, or somewhere other than their eyes. So you're asking the same. Why are you asking the eye contact question 5 fucking times? When I see a balloon, I worry that it might pop. Yeah, I've always done that. I just go, it's any moment now. Any moment now. I often bump into things or trip over my own feet. Disagree unless it was, traumatic brain injury, vertigo related. And I wasn't uncoordinated when I was autistic either. I was an athlete. I rarely experience happiness or joy. Back then, emotional analogy. I mean, I did feel positives, but no, the extreme. I do feel happiness and joy, but back then I was miserable and angsty and goth. 43. Others have told me that I have problems managing my anger. Nope. I'm very sensitive to noise. Same question again. At parties or social gatherings, usually stand in corners or close to a wall. Nope. And didn't back then. I love a costume party. I would go to these parties. I would have fun. I would dance. So no, I wasn't the introvert. Well, I was more introverted, but at a party I would let loose and have fun. When I get angry, I calm down faster than most people. Yeah, I noticed that. There are a few times where, but my family's like that as well. So I don't know if it's necessarily a autism thing or it was just the way I was raised. That we would have this full-on screaming match, and then an hour later or less, hey, you want to watch the latest Breaking Bad? We're all watching it together. Okay, we loved our HBO shows. I don't know what it was. 47. We're nearly done. I sometimes have compulsive thoughts about being injured or having other bad things happen to me in extremely specific ways. I have intrusive thoughts. And also I did have a lot of fantasies about what they call in fanfic, hurt comfort. Because obviously I was a very lonely, sad kid who was so touch-starved. Especially after the accident, I had a lot of dreams and fantasies about that, of being injured and then someone taking care of me. So I think that's more to do with a mountain of trauma and abandonment. It has nothing to do with autism. So I would disagree, and I didn't think about that when I was autistic either, but yeah. Okay, 48. It is hard for me to sit still without tapping or fidgeting. Disagree, although I do need to move frequently. I notice more than other people if if we're watching a movie together in the cinema, and I'm looking at the people around me, I will, switch sides. And you might notice me folding my knees up, crossing my legs on the chair, putting my legs down. I don't know how people do that. We sit in one position for a long time because it starts getting uncomfortable. You need to move. And so I sit in a rocking chair when I'm playing video games or watching a movie at home. It's in a rocking chair, so there is that gentle motion so that it helps with the phantom pain. So it's not really related to autism. But then my whole life I've just been a fairly active person. I don't just sit completely still. Some people are just, couch potatoes. They will just drop themselves and that's it. They don't rotate. Okay. And then I sleep rotisserie style as well. I'm going from one side to the next, one side to the next. I don't know if I do the same in my sleep, but yeah. 49. I am often beset by feelings of sadness. Disagree. I mean, when my life was fucked, yeah, but not now. I enjoy parties. Hell yeah, I am the party queen. So now we're getting to the results. Loading. Interesting. So I'm screen recording this. I just forgot I did that. Okay, make that nice so you can see that. Autism spectrum test results. So we have, just to give you a number, no, quite high for depression. Even though not high, because it's got up to, so what have we got, 5. So I got 2 out of 5. And yeah, I'm surprised that nowadays, well, I guess, just still got a lot of trauma with it. Fixations, very low. Abnormal or flat speech. Okay, I questioned that one. What I said I didn't have flat or abnormal speech, unless I did the questions wrong. I'm not going to go back now. But where did it get that? I answered all those questions as I disagree. I don't know. And then noise sensitivity, none. Social difficulty, none. Well, I think any interaction with human beings is going to have some social difficulties, but yeah, no. I do quite well. Above average, I'd even say. Autism vibe check test. I'm sorry, that just came up. Like, what the... A vibe check? So, as we can clearly see, I am not autistic at all. And I'm not sure why the flat speech was so high. Maybe I clicked on something wrong, I don't know. Noise sensitivity, none anymore. Social difficulty, none anymore. Anxiety, none, or minimal anymore. Abnormal posture, not anymore. Poor eye contact, no anymore. Tics and fidgets, not anymore. Or minor. Or what do you count as if I need to continually move? But I guess they said it was nothing. So aggression, none. Depression, surprisingly high. But yeah. Well, thinking about the obsessions or fixations I used to have. Well, towards the end there, it was connected to my autoandrophilia. So I would form these intense obsessions with men who I wanted to be. Well, I guess wearing an outfit inspired by Chester and getting a piercing inspired by Chester. I guess there's an element of that as well. But I don't lose myself in these other identities anymore. I don't wish I was someone else. I'm pretty awesome. Like, who wouldn't want to be me? But yeah, back then, I think that's where my interest in costumes came from. Is the kind of a sad, perhaps insidious place of wanting to escape and wanting to be someone else. And a lot of that was gender based. And so for a while there, I was fixated on Benedict Cumberbatch, but everyone was back then. Then it was Michael Fassbender, and I was fixated on David from Prometheus. I've mentioned that in other videos. Then it was Connor in Detroit Become Human. And since detransitioning, I love Big Boss from Metal Gear Solid. I love Chester Bennington. And I take, I got the mullet like Big Boss, and when my eye's acting up, I will put the eye patch on like Big Boss. So I take bits of inspiration now, but it's not that I want to completely erase myself or lose myself in that identity. Although still occasionally, I don't know what this is, maybe it's hyperphantasia, I don't know, but there'll be just too much distraction or noise that I can't remember what I look like. I need to visualize myself at all times. So recording a video is great because I'm looking at myself the entire time. I feel very integrated with my body. But other times, I can't visualize, I can't remember my own face. Like, I need to look in a mirror just so that otherwise it's just going to be the last person I looked at. So when I was playing a lot of Cyberpunk and looking at Johnny Silverhand, Keanu Reeves, yeah, that got weird. So you just got to look at. I just got to look at my reflection so that I reintegrate myself. So I do. That's dissociation. I didn't know what it was for the longest time in my life. No one mentioned what it was. I didn't know what it was called. I just figured that one out myself. Not self-diagnosing or anything, but yeah, I was having dissociative episodes where I just didn't feel right in my body. I didn't feel real. I didn't identify with myself. So, we have debunked, or finally proven, whether or not I do have the autisms anymore. Did I ever? Well, it's difficult because my mother, whatever her problem is, Munchausen by proxy, narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder. Maybe I'll do that test after this, depending on how long it is. But yeah, my mum would look at home videos of me when I was a little girl. Depending on, I don't know what mood she was in. I mean, she was always crying when she's watching old home movies of me as a little girl. But sometimes she'd be crying and go, "What happened to you? You were so normal." And then a few months later, "See? There was something wrong with you. You were different." And she'd point out really, really minor things of normal toddler behavior. And I go, well, if an adult did that, sure, that's pretty autistic. But I was 3, Mom. But yeah, borderline personality disorder. So that, less people talk about it or seem to be diagnosed with it because now we have AuDHD, which is complete bullshit. It's complete nonsense. So no one wants to be diagnosed with borderline, but autism, ADHD, those are cute, those are fun, those are social media friendly. So you have a lot of adult women who have never had a diagnosis before, suddenly getting diagnosed with AuDHD. And they talk about, oh, the different symptoms. And girl, that is borderline. That is just borderline. And there's if I can find it, there was a therapist talking about the very same thing of these women just basically asking for this diagnosis and it's being given to them. And none of them have autism or ADHD symptoms. And I don't even think it is possible to have autism and ADHD at the same time. I think they're totally diametrically opposed. Alright, IDR Labs has a 20-question borderline test, so let's give that one a crack. Question 1, I am extremely moody, disagree. And as we go through, let's see how many of these sound like autism symptoms. I'm not extremely moody. I have intense reactions to even small changes or unexpected occurrences. Disagree. But autism and ADHD have that symptom. My closest relationships are troubled by frequent conflicts, arguments, or repeated breakups. Disagree. Disagree, but autism. Well, the AuDHD girls, they'll claim this one. I am good at regulating my own emotions. Very true, but AuDHD, they struggle with that. I become desperate when faced with the prospect of abandonment by a close friend or romantic partner, beg them not to leave, physically cling to them, or similar. I will say that because I was anxiously attached. That's due to trauma from PTSD and the accident, and my friends and family abandoning me in my hour of need. Thanks, guys. I'll remember it forever. Even though I don't want to. I rarely experience sudden, intense bursts of anger. And this is very true, but autism, you could do. I fluctuate between focusing entirely on someone's positive qualities and feeling frustrated about their negative qualities. That's like the main borderline trait. That's not really an autism or ADHD one, and I disagree. I don't do that either. I rarely make impulsive or spur of the moment decisions. Somewhat disagree, and well, autism, it's all about planning. I struggle with impulsivity in at least 2 different areas of my life. Binge eating, spending sprees, drinking too much, verbal outbursts, or something like no, but the AuDHD, God, ladies, they'll claim that one. I have good control of my emotion. You asked that question. You're trying to test my emotions here. I often feel unreal or as if things around me are not real. Not often, but yes, sometimes, which again is a symptom of another condition. So this is related to this video in general. I am glad that we live in a world that is more psychologically aware and educated and literate and all that. But it can have some massive downsides where you have this self-diagnosis and you don't have the training. I don't have the training either, although I have some of the training, to know that just because you tick these boxes doesn't mean you have this condition. That means, so let's say you have these 5 symptoms, whatever they are, like in that wheel that we saw there. Okay, you have these 5 symptoms. Okay, so now here is the color wheel around you of all the conditions that could be. So it takes years of therapy and observation and taking into account every facet of one's childhood, relationships, past traumas, all of that, to really make a diagnosis. And so someone Googling symptoms is the same thing as, is this food poisoning or is it the flu? Like, you cannot tell by Googling that. You gotta see a doctor. It takes years of observation because the human mind is a very complicated thing. And we can't test when it goes wrong. There's no blood test, there's no MRI to say, oh, you have borderline. No, it's years of observation, seeing repeated behaviors. So if I say, oh, I often feel unreal, or, I have this derealization or dissociation, you couldn't diagnose that or claim that is a symptom of any particular thing. It has to be a broad constellation of symptoms. And that's what these videos are about. And this is why it's so hard for me to tell my story in a short window of time, because it's a constellation. Every video I have on my channel is looking at a different facet of my life that made me the way I am. I'm basically giving myself the therapy I never received. Okay, 12. I have a strong sense of identity and a stable sense of self. Well, now I do, but I still deal with that dissociation or having to look in the mirror to remind myself. So, I didn't, through a lot of my life, I didn't have a stable sense of self. So back then I was definitely disagree, and I was like, somewhat agree. I'm getting there, but it's amazing how easily it is, at least for me, to be overwhelmed and manipulated and start to doubt myself. I'm getting better at it. I'm distrustful of other people. Somewhat agree, because I have been fucked in every orifice multiple times, no lube, by so many people I thought I could trust, the closest people around me. So yeah, but that comes from, again, an unrelated trauma. I do not have a history of deliberately hurting myself. Somewhat. Okay, yeah, I'll be full disclosure here. Yeah, after the accident and going through all that trauma and the phantom pain, I started cutting, and not deeply. I used a fillet knife. There's no scars or anything. I do not have a history of deliberately hurting myself. Somewhat agree, somewhat disagree. I frequently act in angry, sarcastic, or negative manner. Disagree. I make frantic efforts to avoid feeling abandoned, frequently calling someone to reassure myself that they still care. Well, I'm in a better place now, but I'll say somewhat, because I used to be, like, after the accident, I really was just so terrified of being left. I didn't feel like I could take it anymore. That so many people had abandoned me. So I pulled everyone else in, like whoever remained, I was clinging to them. It's like, so you still like me, right? You're not bothered by the fact that I'm injured, and what I went through was very cruel. I'm angry, because that was a very cruel thing to do to someone. If I had a friend who nearly died, and even if I was thinking about leaving them, I didn't like them very much, I have integrity? I'm not an asshole? What the fuck? Your daughter, your sister, your niece, your friend nearly dies and is in a lot of pain and can barely function. And now you decide to be a narcissist. Now you decide to be very selfish and yeah, I guess I was just surrounded by very, very selfish people. I don't know. I could not relate to that. I couldn't wrap my. And I never will. I have chronic feelings of emptiness. Disagree. It takes me a long time to calm down after an emotionally triggering event. No, I mean, as I said in the other test, I move on pretty quick. Although sometimes I notice my autonomic nervous system, it can be kind of raised for a little while. So my stomach might be a little funny, my sleep might be a little funny. I frequently feel like I am on a roller coaster of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors I cannot control. Nope. I am the rock. I am just pretty solid. I feel a general sense of stability and security in most of my personal relationships. Yeah, nowadays I do, except with people who are avoidant and have their own attachment issues. But even then, even with the avoidant in my life, I feel very close to them. I just go, okay, you just need to run off for a little while. Okay, he'll do his thing. He'll come back. My borderline score is 0%. Zero. Low. So anyone accusing me of the AuDHD or borderline or any of that, nope. Nope. And I'm not a narcissist either. And I don't need a test for that because, well, I lived with one. But narcissists don't like themselves. That is the sad irony of it, is that they are so desperate for the approval of others that they will do anything. They are very insecure. They create this narrative, this false narrative that they are so amazing and I'm the best mother. I've never done anything wrong. And yeah, I've heard that. I've lived with that. You know, my mother would spend hours on the phone. She'd come home from work, and she'd be like, "Oh yes, my daughter. She's recovering very well, and I'm doing so much for her, and I have no free time, and blah blah blah." Meanwhile, I'm lying there going, "Well, I mean, I would like to have a bath. I would like to eat. I've been waiting for you to get home, but no, I gotta wait for her to end her boasting about herself to actually care for me." But yeah. I like myself. I finally, I've always had low self-esteem and low self-worth throughout my life, and I have had anxious attachment, but no, I like myself. I see my worth. I am not trying to control the narrative. I can take any criticism. I am very open to debate and discussions and arguments. Um, so, yeah, there is nothing wrong with me. So now we'll look into my medical records, and these were from a GP that I had visited since I was a fetus. This guy had known me a long time, and in those early records, there is nothing at all about strange behavior or clashing in school. I was a school bully, actually. And it seemed like there was a boy in my class who had a fetish for Amazonian beatdowns. Like he kept provoking me, and he loved me just pummeling him and throwing him to the ground. He was a little skinny ragdoll, like real scrawny, um, premature baby maybe. Just his skin was so pale you could see the veins, and yeah, like little golem motherfucker. And I would kick his ass, and he just kept coming back for more. I wasn't going after him. He loved it. So yeah, I was a school bully because I was bigger than everyone else in primary school. So in my mind, I'm still Conan the Barbarian, but maybe that's why I dissociate, because the person in my head is not the person I see in the mirror. Or it's getting there. I feel pretty good in terms of muscle mass. But the only reference to any sort of mental issue happens around 2007. End of 2007, which is I'm 15 years old, so that's the end of my high school career for me, because I was it was the staff that were bullying me, not so much the high school students. I didn't really fit. I kind of flitted around the groups with the emos, the geeks. I never really sat in one spot. But it was the staff that fucking hated me for some reason. That's where I felt like, Jesus, no matter what I do, these people just dogpile on me. I don't know. I kept getting detention all the time, but it's for really little things like, the other girls would be dressed like whores. They look like, Britney Spears but she's dressed in a little slutty little school outfit. Yeah. Yeah, it's not too much of an exaggeration. In the Catholic school I went to, these girls would hitch up the skirts and they would unbutton the top and they would have makeup on. Meanwhile, I'd have just tinted Clearasil. One time I had tinted Clearasil on, and the teacher made me wipe it off. And went, "See, you're wearing makeup on." I think, are you just a jealous old bitch that you don't like that I have flawless, amazing skin? Is that the problem? You don't believe that a teenager can go through puberty and still have good skin? Okay. And then the other one was that my shoelaces broke, black shoes. So then I just put some purple ones. All I had spare on me was some purple ones. Got attention with that. And so my mum, to her defense, defended me, going, "What the fuck? Why is everyone picking on you when I see the other kids behaving way worse?" Um, so it's really done a number on when I look on my past. Just talking overall here. It's hard to be really objective, but I've had to do a lot of introspection to get somewhat of a perspective, because I'm just a magnet for it. I did initially think, well, what am I doing to deserve this? What's going on with me? You know, am I so horrible? But no, it's like I'm Frankenstein's monster, except I look normal. People just don't fucking like me for some reason. I don't know if it's because I'm just so honest and truthful and comfortable with myself. And I think that triggers emotionally insecure people. They lash out at me. It's like, how dare you be comfortable and happy? So at this point, if someone does do that fucking narcissist stuff, it's like, you go ahead. Okay, if you say so. I don't give a fuck. I know there's nothing wrong with me. I guess this new season, or whatever we're up to for my channel, the new season is there's nothing fucking wrong with me and never was. But I have just been gaslit. I know that, and not to use, psychology phrases, but I have been gaslit. I have been lied to. I have been the victim on the receiving end of very insecure, selfish people. I am a threat because I am not easily quantifiable or controllable. I am ungovernable. I'm intelligent. I ask questions. I ask questions they don't want me to ask. And that's why I piss people off. But that's also why some people love me. So you win some, you lose some. 2007. Courtney did improve with iron tablets, more energy. Yeah, I just needed to eat more meat. I wish I'd gone carnivore years ago. So, yeah, I think I mentioned that I had someone on Reddit say, I have never heard of anyone shit themselves so hard that they gave themselves autism. So, yeah, when I was 11 years old, it was January. I had a pool slumber party. So, we were swimming all day, had a sleepover. Next morning, while everyone else was out in the pool, I slept later. I felt awful. Mum makes me some pancakes, and then I'm just on the toilet for ages. Oh, by the way, vomit-free since 2003, so I don't vomit, but it comes out the back end. Good for my teeth. So then I'm lying in bed, and everyone else gets picked up, and I feel like this dying monarch, this procession of people saying goodbye to me. Just go, I might never see you again. I just was never right after that, and then I got my first period at year 7 camp, of all fucking times. I'm always at home around my mother, except when I get my period, I'm out of the home in a rare instance, and so yeah, I got my period, had to come home, was in so much pain, and it was the full moon, so all night I thought I was turning into a werewolf. And so 11 I had stomach issues, and 12 I get my period, and so I'm just around that time, a lot of hormonal and gut changes are happening, and I'm depressed, I'm introverted, I totally change in personality, but, no one's thinking ginger snaps, they're thinking, well, teenage girls, they're changing, not realizing that it wasn't a normal change. There was something very wrong going on. I was sick, mentally, physically. So yeah, there was this iron deficiency all of a sudden because I'm menstruating. So just stop being a vegetarian. Fuck. Still occasional stomach problems. Tomorrow is seeing Sue Blank. some issues with a boy at school, hassling her and lashing out at him. Oh yeah, this motherfucker, he was, well, they both had, there were these two douchebags in high school, so it wasn't really a huge, but they had such nerdy names, like no wonder they're the bully. Ainsley, and Wolfgang. Just like, okay, well, we're gonna kick your ass. Mum wonders if she has it's misspelled, but Asperger's. Has done some research and she fits some of the criteria. So, I mean, no one suggested autism before this. It's out of the blue. Mum probably watched 60 Minutes or Oprah or some shit. Saw something about autism. Was like, oh yeah, that's what my daughter has. Not depression. Nah. We'll just ignore it. And apparently, a lot of people who are diagnosed with autism late in life, they were diagnosed with depression first, and then it was actually autism. Whereas for me, no, I was diagnosed with autism first. It was actually just depression. So this is May 2007, so this is quite a bit before, still the same year, but my mother had been taking me to see a lot of therapists, and we never went back to the same one. And I just thought my mother knew what she was doing, but no. So she was shopping around for a diagnosis. Every single letter from a therapist said she seems intelligent, lonely, depressed, anxious. We don't think it's autism. We don't want to put kids in boxes, da 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 da. And so my mom would present these letters, like, see how ableist they are and sexist. And so, yes, you're right, Mum. You're correct. I believe you. Because I'm a child. I don't know any better. And go, oh, if you say so, I guess. Because I was having a hard time in school, but in hindsight, I realized there was nothing fucking wrong with me. I was just surrounded by assholes. So I'm in my new era. I'm unapologetic. I am so sick of saying sorry when I'm not wrong. Okay, so here's one guy. Many thanks for referring Courtney, who was assessed on the 19th of May 2007, presenting as an articulate, intelligent adolescent who acknowledged some interpersonal difficulties, school-based problems, and an inclination to have somewhat eccentric views of the world. I gather there have been some recent clashes at schools due to Courtney's tendency to be rather oppositional. So thankfully I wasn't diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder, another bullshit diagnosis, which is usually a disorder or label given to kids in abusive situations. They don't have a disorder, they just have abusive caregivers. Tendency to be rather oppositional, which has further concern to parents. I'm not oppositional. I was asking questions because I didn't think the rules I was being told made any fucking sense. However, it probably would be useful to monitor her general clinical state, and I gather she will be returning to meet with Sue blank. So it starts painting a real picture here. This is like, however many seasons we're into this YouTube channel, we're getting to the truth that a lot of this was my mother telling me a fictitious tale. One that she preferred. Because if a child has depression or anxiety, well, then what does that say about you as a parent? Whereas a Munchausen by proxy mother wants their child to have autism or ADHD or something that is just stunning and brave, doesn't require any further intervention. Or if it does, it's something like transgender, where, it's affirmation. Here is a letter from 2011 from the guy who did diagnose me. Thank you for referring this 19-year-old whopper, misspelt student, first year specializing in costume, not fashion design. They never listen. I reading all these medical notes, I just go, you're only half listening most of the time. She presents with a long history, very typical of Asperger's disorder, with lifelong difficulties in the area of social skills, empathy, emotional reciprocity, difficulties with physical touch, prefers to pursue her own interests and ideas, can be obsessive, can talk at people rather than with them, general unawareness of the needs of others. These problems were particularly apparent in high school, where there is enormous peer pressure to conform, and she had a lot of problems. Yeah, I guess maybe that was the thing, is there's this need to conform. Everyone wants me to fit into a group and to be conformist, and I wasn't. I always went my own way, always did my own thing, or this weird little Luna Lovegood doing my own thing. Yeah, I left year 10 because the school kicked me out. Unfortunately, she's having the same issues at Whopper that she had at school, to do mostly with coping with the course. But every now and again, her Asperger's characteristics cause difficulties following complex instructions, organizational problems, problems in the group, cooperating activities, difficulty being cognitively flexible, some peer intolerance, and general difficulties fitting in. And yeah, all that is true. I was very neurotic, and I never seemed to understand what was going on around me at any time. And I would understand the instructions one way, and then it was a totally different thing. Or I never heard, oh, it's a public holiday today, or oh, we had something due today, or I was supposed to wear all black today. Oh, I never heard. So I obviously, with my gut issue or this autism thing, yeah, I was having a lot of these symptoms that looked like autism, but it was something. It was a mental illness of some description, or something caused by my gut microbiome that was causing me to just space out, have a lot of social issues. Just kind of retarded. I'm bringing that word back. I was just kind of retarded. I was up in my own little world. I couldn't connect with other people. I had no empathy whatsoever. And I have a lot of empathy now. So, yeah, there was something wrong with me, but shame on this motherfucker, because he saw me once. I sat there silently the entire time. My mum got the diagnosis. She talked about me, and I just... you need multiple sessions. You can't just have someone's mum say, oh, she does this, that, and the other. Okay, well, let's talk to the patient for a few weeks, a few months, and really figure this out. I know people struggle for years to get an autism diagnosis, but they don't shop around. They stick to just the one therapist who gets to know them over time. But my mum just kept moving on to the next. But this guy, this doctor in question, he diagnosed my middle brother with ADHD. And when he suddenly started developing all these behavioral issues, probably about the age of 10? Very hyperactive, aggressive, hitting and doing all sorts of strange things. But looking back, I'm just thinking, maybe my brothers and I've read Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score, which is all about trauma. And reading that was so eye-opening and so life-changing, because I realized, I think we were all just traumatized. We were constantly moving from house to house. My parents had financial difficulties, but they never made us aware of them. They fought. It wasn't too severe until later on in their marriage, but there's something going on with us kids. We all had our issues, and then the way Mum handled them and getting us these diagnoses did not help. They left us stuck. That was the problem. When you have a genuine disability, as I do now, having been hit by a car and having all my physical limitations, it makes you work harder to overcome them. You hear all these uplifting stories of amazing disabled people who don't let it stop. Yeah, because when you're genuinely disabled, you're fucking pissed off about it. You're like, no, it's not going to stop me. But when you're a kid and you're dealing with all these sorts of psychological issues, and someone says, oh, it's fine, you don't got to try anymore, you have ADHD. It's fine, you don't have to try anymore, you have autism. That makes things way worse. You're disempowering and disenfranchising these children, and you're not giving them the means and the ability to overcome and grow and become better than these issues. That's why a lot of therapists are very reluctant to give out this diagnosis, because a lot of these symptoms you can be trained out of. And, I'm not someone who agrees that neurodiversity is just kind of a personality type. You don't need to cure it. No, it is a mental illness. Finishing this letter, there is no magical medication for this condition, which is probably best summarized as a cognitive and personality variant. With time, people with this personality style tend to mature out of it. But over the next few years, she will need a good deal of understanding from friends, family, and anyone involved in her daily activities. Okay, so that's really interesting, and I didn't read that until now. Personality variant. So is this actually a diagnosis? Oh, twists and turns. So I always had this presented to me as, yes, you have autism, personality variant, but with time, people with this personality style tend to mature out of it. So what do you mean by that? Asperger's. So what's his definition of Asperger's then? I'm very interested here because everyone, especially the autism community online, is you're born this way. There's nothing you can do about it, and it's a part of your identity. And no, well, apparently it's something you can grow out of. So this was always waved around as finally you have a diagnosis of autism. That's something. So maybe I never even had the autism diagnosis, but no. We took that to Whopper, and then Whopper, oh my god, it was so mortifying. They had this, they got everyone in the class together. They had this meeting when I wasn't present. So they had this autism expert just speaking about just general autism symptoms. And so then when I came back, everyone treated me like a freak. I don't know, they didn't know what to do with me. But also everything was suddenly written instructions. And I'm going, I don't know. If I'm not good at reading, especially now after a head injury, but back then, if I had any sort of distractions around me at all, no, I need you to verbally tell me. And I still prefer that. Well, back then, I don't know, it felt like no one ever really explained anything, or I just never understood. So it wasn't even that it was a difference between written or verbal instructions. It was just, they just weren't telling me what I needed to know. They're just not looking into the whole picture. No one's spending enough time with me to realize, well, this kid's just depressed, lonely, she just needs more attention. And being around parents now, either my friends' parents or my friends have children, just go, oh my god, my parents were never this invested in me. They never got to try to know me. They bullied me and my brothers for just joking, but they thought that they were not geeks at all. They were just pretty normal. Mum had a very normal experience in school. Dad was a bit of a nomad bush kid out in the wild. And they met. He was a drummer, as I mentioned, and they met in a pub. And had a very normal life. And then all three kids are just huge geeks. We love sci-fi, fantasy, comic books, cosplay, video games. And so they just couldn't relate to it. I mean, the video games a little bit with Dad, but yeah, the amount of emotional investment and the amount of inspiration we got from fiction, my parents just could not understand. But they never tried to understand. One thing my mum said to me once, which pisses me off, and I wish I'd said something back then, but she said, I don't understand you, but I love you. And now, as an adult, I want to turn around and say, then why don't you start trying to understand me? Or just say, well, that's not love. I'm sorry, but if you don't understand something, you cannot love it. You're loving an idea of the thing. And I've always said that to her, Mum, you don't love me. You've never loved me. You've loved the idea of me. You've loved the idea of being a good mother to a girly girl. And then we're going back into just the past consultations. 2006, September 2006. Seems to be September every time. Low iron still, IBS. I suspect no organic cause. Nah, you should put me on the FODMAP. Well, they didn't have FODMAP back then, but yeah, you really should have changed my diet, but no, diet was never brought up. I have suggested to Mum that she see the school psychologist initially, although I think Courtney isn't too keen on seeing anyone. I was just that angsty douchebag kid. I watched Ginger Snaps, which I already referenced. I watched Ginger Snaps again recently, and just as an adult, I go, oh my god, I was that kid. I was that difficult. I'm too cool for this, and fuck all that. There's nothing wrong with me. You're all idiots. Still needs to go back to a psychologist. Let's see, saw a psychologist 3 weeks ago, didn't feel it was very helpful. School okay so far, no real issues so far as she is concerned. Mental state normal, no evidence of disorder or psychosis. Denies depressive symptoms, although affect a bit flat. That was February 2007. And only a few days later, my doctor's being asked to call my therapist. I've spoken to Sue, who's concerned her social isolation, dependence on internet chat, fantasies, death, and murder, and there is a real intense nature to it, and I think almost a delusional intensity. School performance has really gone off. Sue will organize, with Danny, who we wrote that letter. But then the letter from Danny just said, "Oh, she's very intelligent, she's fine." Like, this was, oh my god, this is, yeah. That was like the next month I saw Danny. So on the 21st, there are, well, there's some of these issues at school, but I have psychological issues. I'm 15 years old. So February, and then a couple of days later in February, they're like, "Oh yeah, hey, I think she's gonna be a school shooter." So we don't have guns in Australia, thankfully. So yeah. I was going through my emails, and I did see it was Sue McDonald. I reached out to her, and she called me. We had a brief talk, and yeah, she said the same thing everyone else says. It's depression. It's depression. And I didn't know I had depression though. I never noticed. I actually felt that I had emotional analgesia. I could enjoy things, but I never felt bad. But it was numbness. I realize that now. That's why, I hit puberty and suddenly it's Nine Inch Nails on Linkin Park and Korn and Rob Zombie and all that. And Marilyn Manson. I can keep going. We can keep going. I went totally goth overnight. I was very introverted, avoided the sun, just very paranoid and introverted. And I was a total personality flip. And it's just no one was invested enough in me. No one noticed, hey, this kid's showing some red flags. She's not okay. No one wanted to pay attention to me. And so no wonder I was acting up. For fuck's sake. This is so sad. August 2011, came in with Mum. Whopper are concerned she has some form of autism spectrum disorder, does have a lot of difficulty dealing with more than one task, very distressed by changes in routine, difficulty reading others' emotions, feelings, happy to be by herself, tends to get on better with boys because they are more direct and verbal. It's because I'm a lesbian, so we're heterosocial. Difficulty maintaining eye contact with others, feels she has to learn how to read others' feelings and how to interact appropriately. It doesn't come naturally. Long talk, some Asperger's features, certainly has some issues that need to be fully explored to build on her weak areas, but not to try to be someone she isn't. Yeah. Need a full assessment, clear diagnosis, and... Okay, so that's basically everything from my childhood records there. There is the autism test, so... In conclusion, I never had autism, but whatever was wrong with me psychologically was improved through the carnivore diet, which to me seems to imply that, and despite still being on testosterone at the time, so that seems to imply to me that this problem I have is the gut microbiome, it is inflammation, it's those things, and it all radically shifted after a bout of gastro when I was 11 years old. And then taking testosterone means that I'm basically permanently a carnivore because I am intolerant to all fruits and vegetables, or, above a certain teeny tiny quantity. So the truth is actually way worse than the lie my mother told me. It paints a very sad story of this lonely girl who had no one, who was genuinely invested in her, who wanted to know about her. And yeah, no wonder the metal music that I was listening to really connected with me, because those artists were singing about experiences that I understood, although wasn't consciously aware of. I know there is a temptation to inject so much narrative on the past and reframe it, but I mean, we have a lot of evidence here. So the story my mother tried to tell me, bullshit. Complete bullshit. It's a fucking lie. And the truth is that she needed to be a better parent. Both of my parents seemed to be more invested in me. I was intelligent, I was unique, I was different, I was bored, I didn't really connect with anyone else. I had a few very close friends. Two in primary school and then one in high school. And that was about it. All of this, my mother has told me, why do you blame everything on it, Mum? Because you're the one to blame. Yeah, so this whole thing of my autism and being transgender and just losing decades of my life to this bullshit, this lie. That's all based on my mother's indifference to me and disinterest and inability to realize that she needed to step up as a parent and do more. I just remember them being, both my parents being so tired, and they made a lot of bad financial decisions, so it was living paycheck to paycheck. I know that. I know it was very hard, but don't have kids if you don't know how to earn enough money to support kids, maybe? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of anger there. There's a lot of... I don't look back on the past and wish I could change things. Even though you look at this and go, Jesus, someone, fucking please. I'm crying for help. And I even wrote these edgy messages on forums on the internet. Someone dogged me in and then the police came over. My parents still did nothing. Still didn't take my computer away from me. Still didn't become more invested. Didn't take me to therapy. They wanted to pretend none of it was fucking happening. But now, I have to focus on the present and realize I have gone through this for a reason. I have lived this painful life so that you don't have to. So that many other people, adults and children, families, don't have to go through the same suffering that I did. That you are not alone. That you are not broken. You just need someone to just listen. Just to help you. And I never got that. So I ended up here. Amazingly. I'm amazed I'm still alive, honestly, after everything. That about covers it. See you, Space Cowboy.